Anytime I see this government bringing forward bills around education, I get a kind of shiver goes down my back. And the reason for that, Honourable Speaker, is because what we've seen over a period of 14 years now, 14 years, is a government that has, in large part, undermined the quality of public education in this province. They clearly were elected in 2001 and had a, let's be honest, a very hidden agenda with regards to what to do in regards to public education. As has been alluded to by prior speakers, the then Premier of the province was committed, prior to being elected in 2001, to maintain the legislation around the Education Act. Education changes that made guarantees to ensure that teachers not only would be able to go into the classroom and teach, but they would have the necessary supports in place in order to do their jobs. And Honourable Speaker, upon getting elected, and very soon sitting down here, coming into the legislature, and stripping those contracts, and thus removing many of the supports that children require and teachers required in order to do their job. That kind of set the tone, Honourable Speaker, and 14 years later, when I see another piece of legislation coming in saying that we're going to somehow improve public education, well, I and a lot of people in the province of British Columbia naturally are very skeptical. So let's just look at the history here, Honourable Speaker. So as I mentioned, the teachers' contract was stripped, and what effect did that have on their ability to teach, but more importantly, what effect did it have on the learning conditions of the children of British Columbia? Well, let's see. I remember being elected and listening in a throne speech here that we were going to be the jurisdiction in North America with the highest literacy. What's the outcome been? Well, we've seen libraries close. We've seen teacher librarians lose their jobs. They have done the exact opposite of what they said they were going to do in terms of trying to have the support teachers, the specialized teachers, in place to support the classroom teachers. We've seen, as a result of all of these changes, counselors who help deal with behavioral problems or learning disabilities. Many of them have been laid off and lost their jobs over the last several years. So what we have seen, Honourable Speaker, is a dilution of the quality of supports in the classroom to enable our teachers to do their job. And so, Honourable Speaker, let's get to more recent times. We have seen just a few months ago the longest strike in BC history, and it's very interesting to be in this legislature and to listen to the Minister of Education, who speaks in glowing terms of what I guess he sees as the wonderful success of that strike. He likes to stand here and say, well, it was a long strike, we were tough, and we won, and we got a teacher contract that's long. Let me, for a moment, give a little bit of feedback, Honourable Speaker. When I spoke with the teachers in Terrace and Kitimat and the beautiful Nass Valley, they felt very disillusioned by the whole process, the reason why they went out on strike, the result of the strike. They certainly don't see this as any kind of success when they were eventually forced back to work and into the classroom. And I'll tell you why. Because the fundamental reason why they went on strike, Honourable Speaker, in spite of what the government likes to say, which was that they just wanted to increase their salaries, the fundamental reason that they went on strike, Honourable Speaker, was to fight for something that they've been fighting for the previous 12 years, which was to improve the classroom conditions, the learning conditions of the children. Honourable Speaker, that has all been reduced because teachers who have been teaching since the BC Liberals came into power have seen the quality of the classroom supports go down endlessly. And so they were fighting for that. And I think parents understood that. So I think it's fair to say, Honourable Speaker, that most of the teachers were really disgusted at some of the antics that took place during that strike. Let me give you an example. The government hired a PR firm using public dollars to manage Twitter and Facebook accounts, sending out what the minister described as important information for parents. I think if you went and looked at those information bulletins, you'd see it was nothing but partisan activities happening on behalf of the BC Liberals. They weren't sending out information to parents to help them get through the strike. What they were doing was they were sending out absolute propaganda, stating that teachers were greedy, that teachers just were doing this for extra money. They never mentioned the fact that teachers were walking the line every day, giving up their salaries, their pay, in order to try and fight for the things that have been stripped and been taken away. Things which, by the way, Honourable Speaker, you know, we have this debate in this House, things which the BC Supreme Court, Honourable Speaker, agreed on. Let's understand this, Honourable Speaker. Madam Justice Susan Griffiths is not a member of the BC Liberal Party. She's not a member of the NDP. She's an independent justice, highly valued and respected. And she has deliberated on 2 occasions in regards to the battle that has gone forth, the continual war of attrition that the BC Liberals have put upon the teaching profession. And here's some of the things that she said. She said that the BC Liberals negotiated in bad faith, that they didn't take the advice of their own staff when they were making decisions around public education. That's a pretty challenging thing, I think, Honourable Speaker, when a judge, a Supreme Court judge, actually admonishes the government of the day for bringing in legislation which, by the way, was ruled unconstitutional. And, Honourable Speaker, here we are in 2015, and we're still going through the court process, and my understanding is that even later this week, there'll be another ruling. And it may go on beyond that, Honourable Speaker. So that is the context upon which this piece of legislation is coming in. One in which teachers feel that they have been put upon, that parents have not had the kinds of supports for their kids that were expected. That's the context, Honourable Speaker, before I even start to look at some of the details of this bill.